Good, glad to hear you. Thank you for coming out this morning. I know it's cold and windy. All right, so before we begin, a little bit about me and my background. As mentioned, my name is Elliot Westerpack. I'm a sixth-year English major. My pronouns are he, they, and I come from fandom. As early as elementary school, I was writing fan fiction about me and my friends in Narnia. I do, in fact, have a Tumblr account. No, you may not have its name. I come from fandom, and so what that brings to my academic career is two things. One, I'm always willing to make it gay. And two, my experience and reception of art is fundamentally impacted by participatory culture. In his 1988 article, Star Trek Rerun, Reread, Rewritten, Fan Writing as Textual Poaching, Henry Jenkins III declares that a central aspect of fandom is the ability to transform personal reaction into social interaction, spectator culture into participatory culture. I would like to take this a bit of a step further and assert that all art is participatory culture, but before all the academics in the room start having heart palpitations about such a broad claim, don't worry, that's not my thesis. If you'll indulge me, my primary goal is to present a creative writing tool. So in the spirit of that, we're gonna make someone together. Not like that. Okay, so very, very quick. Can I please have a name? Hands up, please. This is not an improv show. Yes?
Philip.
Philip, okay, incredible. Marker. Please don't be a dead marker. Okay. Yay, success. Incredible. Can I have an age, please?
38.
What did I just say?
42.
42. He's like the universe and everything. Incredible. Okay, and can I have a set of pronouns, please, and thank you?
They, them.
They, them. All right. Incredible. I am going to need a volunteer. Any volunteer? You've already said something. If you don't know me, and you would like to volunteer, please put up your hand.
I'll do it for you.
Incredible. Thank you. What's your name?
Emily.
Hi, Emily. I'm Elliot. Nice to meet you. No, you can say that.
Beautiful.
All right, Emily, your job is to answer the same question twice. All right, so with the knowledge we have about Philip, 42, they, them, how do we feel about this person?
Love them.
Love them. Okay, incredible. Do we know much about them?
No.
Are you interested in them?
No.
Perfect. All right, I would like to take this a step further. Can I please have an occupation, a job?
Teacher.
What did I say? Yes.
Veterinarian.
A veterinarian, okay. Awesome. And can I please have a secret? Not one of yours.
They learned to be a veterinary person in a war.
They learned how to be a vet in war. Okay.
Which makes them a vet.
Okay. All right. Thank you, thank you. So, now with this information, now how do you feel about Philip?
I feel like I want to know more.
Okay, incredible. And finally, my last question. What do we think is Philip's goal? You can answer if you know. Yes.
To help sick animals all around the town.
All right, there we go. All right, to help the animals all around the town. Incredible. Congratulations, my friends. We have the makings of a story. This is going to stay up here all the whole time. Don't mind my terrible writing. All right, esteemed colleagues, I propose the following. For a long-form, character-driven narrative to succeed, that story must rest on the following three pillars of character relationships. Character to character, character to self, and character to audience. Would anyone like me to draw it? Okay, great. The first two pillars are going to be our in-text relationships, and the third I hope is fairly self-explanatory. Character to character and character to self can be built by answering the following questions. Is there like? Is there trust? Is there respect? Do these characters like each other? Does this character like themselves? Does Philip respect or trust themselves? Do they respect or trust others? These aren't always yes or no questions. The answer can sometimes be that character doesn't know. But as the writer, You should know the answer to all 3 of those questions for your main cast before the final draft. Please, before the final draft. Screenwriter Blake Snyder, in his book Save the Cat, says the trick is to create heroes who offer the most conflict in that situation, have the longest to go emotionally, and are the most demographically pleasing. Now, conflict, emotional journey, and pleasing the demographic are essential to your story, but where do they come from? It certainly can't come from one singular character. You gotta populate your world, and how better to do that than with relationships? Nobody exists in this world alone. As Catherine West has said to me a great many times, if a man tells me he was born alone and he'll die alone, I'll bet their mother would be surprised to hear it. Conflict only happens in response to an antagonist. Emotional journeys mean nothing if nobody's there to be affected by it. In the 25th anniversary edition of her book Bird by Bird, Anne Lamott asks, what sort of first impressions do your characters make? Everyone is walking around as an advertisement for who they are, so what is this person? A con man, an orphan, a nurse, a king, a hooker, a preacher, a loser, a child, a crone? None of these archetypes exist in a vacuum. Each relies on the presence of another, whether it manifests in judgment, love, transaction, or simple witness. Like we saw with the exercise, no protagonist can be interesting on their own. They need other people to influence their world. In this case, that character-to-character relationship might be between Philip and a dog, or a fish, or a very prickly alligator. Who knows? It might be from the veteran they learned their veterinarian training from. That's the interesting part. They need other people to influence their world. But once those other people are there, we can start to question how this character feels about themselves in relation to those other people. Once again, drawing from Lamont, each of your characters has an emotional acre they tend or don't tend in certain specific ways. What is this person growing, and what sort of shape is the land in? You need to find out as much as possible about the interior life of the people you're working with. I'm hoping like, trust, and respect can act as our roadmap for this emotional acreage of character self. So let's go back to that section of 3 questions, maybe a little more specific this time. Like, do they enjoy their own company? Trust, do they believe in their abilities? Respect, do they believe they have value? So once again, going back to Philip, does Philip think that they're a good vet? Do they trust in themselves to take care of the sick animals in their town? Do they respect their capabilities as a vet? Do they like being a vet? We can use the goal to answer these questions. Do they trust themselves to achieve their goal? Does their self-respect hinge on achieving their goal? Will they still like themselves even if they don't? These relationship questions aren't rocket science, but it's essential. Most of my sources, most writing advice books I've come across will acknowledge the importance of multiple characters, yes, but focus on a protagonist outward creation model, like the one we started with. And it's fine to start there, but it can get hierarchical in nature. Robert McKee, in his book Story, actively refers to the protagonist as the star. Supporting roles are inspired by the central character and designed to delineate his complex of dimensions. Secondary roles need not only the protagonists, but one another to bring out their dimensions. Ideally, in every scene, each character brings out qualities that mark the dimensions of the others. All held in constellation by the weight of the protagonist at the center. Now, while the need for characters to bring out each other's qualities in every scene is, I would call accurate, that's just character to character for you, I'm not a fan of this metaphor. Your protagonist cannot be the weighty center. I checked with NASA, a singular star with too much weight will collapse itself into a black hole. Constellations have no center. They can only be drawn through connections. As a writer, your first job once you have a character, is to ask and answer questions about their relationships, about their world. And your second job is to ask why, and keep asking like a toddler who's just learned how to. Because I guarantee your readers already will be. Which brings us to character to audience. Hi audience, how you doing? Doing okay? Okay, let's talk about that third pillar. I've kept you waiting long enough. Character to audience relationships are based off of emotional investment and expectation. That's it! Emotional investment is me getting you to care about this character. We want to care about Philip. You gave the perfect question. You weren't super interested. Perfect answer. You weren't super interested in them until we knew more about them. So that's emotional investment, is me getting you to care. And then expectation is making sure I've given you the right map so you can kind of kind of have a guess of where you're going, what's going to happen. Character to character and character to self give you what kind of emotional investment they have in themselves and other characters have in them, which informs your own. It's very synergetic that way. If you like the protagonist, you want them to succeed, hopefully. If most of the other characters like the protagonist, you expect them to succeed. As McKee puts it, you can't portray a guy as nice throughout a film, then in one scene have him kick a cat. This is emotional investment in conversation with expectation. If your protagonist is nice the whole time, to have him randomly kick a cat, a generally frowned upon activity, not only betrays our expectations of him, but disrupts our emotional investment. But say that cat is proven to be capable of great evil or attempting to take over the world. We'll be more than forgiving, we'll cheer. I keep using we, and it's not for nothing. Once again, borrowing from Jenkins, once characters are inserted into popular discourse, regardless of their source of origin, they become the property of the fans who fantasize about them, not the copyright holders who merchandise them. Character to audience is an aspect of the participatory culture that is inherent to public artworks. We only engage if we're interested in the character the author wants us to be interested in, and once we are, sky's the limit. Surprise! We care. There's entire careers built off of it. How many of you are still thinking about Philip the veterinarian who learned from a veteran? I still am. You care. Where's my You're emotionally invested in their story because you helped in their construction, and even if you didn't, you have expectations of where it's going to go. The author of Crafty TV Writing, Alex Epstein, an unfortunate last name to have at this time, is the only one of my sources to have a dedicated section about relationships, because he knows people tune in because they care about the characters and want to see what's going to happen next in their lives. They become extended members of our family. But at least a good few of you aren't here for writing advice. Some of you are here for the analysis. That's your expectation of me. So with that in mind, may the odds be ever in my favor. Real quick, who has no idea what I'm talking about? Okay, great. Just in case there's anyone who's too shy to say so, let me bring you up to speed. Suzanne Collins' The Hunger Games series takes place in futuristic Penn Am, once North America, divided into 12 industrial districts and the governing capital city. Every year, one boy and one girl from the ages of 12 to 18 are picked randomly or reaped as tribute from each district and dropped into a fight to the death until the last survivor remains. When Katniss Everdeen's little sister, Prim, is reaped, Katniss volunteers in her place and goes in with Peeta Mellark, the boy who saved her and her family from starvation. Collins spends the first chapter setting Katniss up for the reader as a hunter, someone who provides for and protects her family. She's a respected and trusted hunter to the point that she can get away with illegal hunting daily, even from the cops. So if she was thrust into the games directly post-reaping, with her skills with the bow and arrow, with her sneaking and trapping abilities, maybe she'd have the upper hand. But these Hunger Games aren't a punishment just for the districts. It is a television show for the governing capital. A tribute's survival doesn't just depend on their skill set, but being marketable to the capital's richest audience, sponsors. Katniss has to turn herself into a character worthy of sponsors' attention, make herself likable, respectable, and trustworthy to the network executives of a show that routinely kills her people every year. Tough stuff. Before the games, the tributes are assigned a stylist, mentor, escort, and prep team to market them to the audience. So that's 6 people. A character typically only has one author vying for readers' attention, but while the methods may be different, the aim is the same: endear to the audience. For Katniss and her prep team, they have the extra ordeal of endearing Katniss to the best possible audience, by which I mean the audience with the most agency. There are 2 audiences in the Hunger Games novel: the district audience being punished, and the capital audience being entertained. Now I'd like to draw your attention back to this original model for character-driven narratives. For the capital, the Hunger Games are not a character-driven narrative, but an event-driven narrative. A sports game. 24 tributes enter, 1 leaves, 23 people die, 1 lives. The emotional investment relies solely on guessing and gambling on who is going to win. The district audience and the capital audience are also operating on 2 different modes of engagement that Linda Hutchin, in her book Beginning to Theorize Adaptation, describes. She She says to tell a story is to describe, explain, summarize, expand. To show a story involves a direct oral and usually visual performance experienced in real time. The district audience is being shown the games, and Hutchins says that although neither telling nor showing renders its audience passive in the least, they also do not engage people as immediately and viscerally as do virtual environments, video games. The interactive physical nature of this kind of engagement entails changes in the story. Interaction, the video game method, Werewolf and Mafia, the dungeoning and dragoning of it all, the one where the viewer has agency. This is where the capital audience lives. The mathematical odds of one person surviving the Hunger Games if they're all going in on an even keel rounds out to around 4.35%. Sponsors can skew those odds in their favorite tribute's favor. Pay for some soup, a weapon, medicine, and if your tribute's luck doesn't run out, ta-da! You're our lucky winner. Your emotional investment that became financial investment has paid off. Katniss is vying to become the audience's favorite player. Once again, sponsors have to be emotionally invested in her before they financially invest in her. So here's where the prep team comes in to adjust the odds. The week leading up to the games is split into 3 events: the opening ceremonies, trainings for announcements, and the final interviews. The opening ceremonies are the stylist's time to shine, dressing the tributes for their first public appearance. Katniss's stylist, Cinna, whips up an elaborate, flaming, yet safe, costume to represent the coal mining District 12, and when presenting it says, "I want the audience to recognize you when you're in the arena. Katniss, the girl is on fire." This is a ploy for emotional investment, to be liked and respected for beauty and guts in Katniss's case. Training scores, on the other hand, are the most straightforward. In a private session with the game makers, each tribute's skill is rated on a scale from 1 to 12 at the end of the week. The higher the score, the more respect a tribute garners, the more they can be trusted to put on a good show. In Katniss's turn, at the bottom of the order, I pull an arrow from my quiver and send it straight at the game maker's table. The arrow skewers the apple in the roast pig's mouth. Katniss emerges with an 11. The final event is the true kicker, interviews. While Katniss preps for this with her mentor, Hamish, he wonders, how we're going to present you. So far, you're shining like a star. You volunteered to save your sister. Cinna made you look unforgettable. You got the top training score. People are intrigued, but no one knows who you are. The impression you make tomorrow will decide exactly what I can get you in terms of sponsors. Everything Katniss has achieved so far, before the games, relies on her either trusting her respectable skills or her relationships with others. So surprisingly, this is the event Katniss has the hardest time with. We try me playing cocky, but I just don't have the arrogance. Apparently, I'm too vulnerable for ferocity. I'm not witty, funny, sexy, or mysterious. By the end of the session, I am no one at all. Before the games, Katniss has never had to worry about her likable personality before. She respected her capable self, not her charismatic self. That's who she could trust in. If she survived another day, she had a good relationship with herself. But now, when her survival may just rely on her being liked, if she's not worth investing in emotionally, she might be dead. But if she's not worth investing in, she knows who is. In her interview with the host, he says, "Let's go back then, to the moment they called your sister's name at the reaping. You could hear a pin drop in the city circle now. What did she say to you after the reaping?" Caesar asks. "She asked me to try really hard to win. The audience is frozen, hanging on my every word." "And what did you say?" prompts Caesar gently. But instead of warmth, I feel an icy rigidity take over my body. My muscles tense as they do before a kill. When I speak, my voice seems to have dropped an octave. I swore I would. Katniss's love for Prit, the very thing that got her in the first place, forces her to trust herself to win, to respect the skills she's honed to survive, whether or not anyone here likes her. But someone here does like her. Someone likes her very much. Okay. Well then,
Let's wrap up and we'll take a conclusion.
okay, that's fine. Alright, I can talk about the Hunger Games later, so my conclusion. I've talked about fandom and how it's shaped my writing model, but it did not shape my relationship with the Hunger Games, what I chose to speak on for my thesis. My little sister did. In September 2014, I was utterly uninterested in this book everyone else loved, until my little sister, who at 11 was already interested, dragged me downstairs for movie night with Dad and said, watching this, put on the first movie. 2 movies later, I was shouting at the screen and my dad asked, "So you're coming to Mockingjay with us when it comes out, right?" Obviously! Through the years and many rewatches, I found out these books are my mom's favorite comfort series. Things that were left in the movies, gaps that were left by the movies were filled in with her sarcastic retellings, rather than me reading the actual text itself. There's an even longer story, but I'll keep it short. We're back to that question. Why am I telling you this? Simple, because you wouldn't. Not like this. My relationship with this series isn't shaped by fandom or even the text itself. It plays no small part, but it's not the main basis of it. I would not be writing this if it weren't for my little sister, for my parents, for my friends who I met through other fandoms and relationships. I care about this series because they do. I only began to engage because I care about them. The odds of this occurring, and my parents meeting, all 4 of them, and working together by simply existing as they are to create this specific version of me is far lower than 4.35%. This version of me can't happen without them, their parents, their friendships, their siblings, their bands, or their accounting professors. That is lifetime upon lifetime that unintentionally came together in such a way that I am imploring you as writers, remember the lifetimes upon lifetimes that came together to make you. Because Anne Lamott is right, having a likable narrator is like having a great friend whose company you love. Because Blake Snyder is right, I hear a story about a best friend and I think about my best friend. Because as much as I love to argue with him, Robert McKee is right. Story is a metaphor for life. Because Alex Epstein is right, we invite good characters to be part of our extended family. Because Henry Jenkins III is right. One becomes a fan by joining community with fans who share common interests. Because I made this model because I want to care about the story you tell me. Because I want you to care about it and who you're telling it to. Because I know you were once the audience to an author who cared, that hopefully you now care so much you would like to be an author too. You want to construct lifetimes because you care about your own, so start with the ones that constructed you. Thank you.